I'm Chris White, and this is the Electric Jesus Podcast. Let me set the scene for you. We're in a circa 1986 church fellowship hall. This is a large, multi-purpose meeting and banquet room that many churches had and still have. It's Sunday night, and in Southern Baptist churches like this one, like the one I grew up in, Sunday night is the more casual meeting time for youth choirs, more intimate services, or as they used to be called, prayer meetings. The service is over. We can hear the adult choir far off in the building rehearsing for next Sunday's service. But here, in the fellowship hall, a cheerful youth minister named Perry has collected 5 teenagers and their families for an impromptu meeting with an old friend of his. The teens have a startup Christian rock band called 316. And Perry's friend, well, he's L.A. slick, dressed like a character from Miami Vice, and he's come to do business.
I work for a company in Chicago called Harvest Concert Ministries. We book concert tours for gospel groups, promote them, manage the bands. Now, I've been doing this for 7 years now, and I have seen this industry absolutely explode. When I started, it was with Petra, doing shows in fellowship halls, just like this one, back in '79.
Wait, when you say Petra, do you mean like Petra?
Good friends of mine, great guys, on fire for Christ. I just saw Bobby at GMA in Nashville a couple weeks ago.
Petra? The boys are wowed. This fellow, Skip Wick is his name. His offer is a Christian band kid's dream.
I am here to steal you from your mamas and daddies for the summer. Take you out on the road, cut an album, see what happens.
You're talking about a tour?
Yes, ma'am. 316 on tour. All 4 members and a sound man. The Rock and Roll Road Show. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition.
Are you kidding me? The kids in the band were just having fun, but this guy is legit. And he wants to make a record. He wants to tour the country. But, there's always a kid like this in evangelical Christian circles. Maybe he was you. I know he was me. He's the super serious, devout one. He's the guy who takes all this Jesus stuff seriously. Not that the others don't believe, but for kids like this one, devotion to the Bible, to Jesus, to all the stuff the pastor and Sunday school teachers and camp counselors taught us, this was life-altering truth. And we carried ourselves, well, very piously. In this story, our earnestly devout teenager's name is Eric, and he kind of throws a wet blanket on Skip's rock and roll roadshow.
What about spiritual accountability? I mean, all the big bands travel with pastors, and they have Bible studies every day. And rules too, like no girls on the bus, stuff like that.
The room falls silent. Eric's friends in the band are not happy about this. Eric's the sound man, the guitar tech, roadie, for heaven's sake. The parents start to waver, but Skip, he's a pro. He knows how to handle this.
Perry told me you boys put Jesus first. What's your name, son?
It's Eric, sound man.
Yeah, Brother Eric's concerns, they echo the greats. You don't get into this business to party hardy and rock and roll, drink Bacardi and smoke a bowl. No. You do it to spread the good news of Jesus Christ, to make him famous. Your sound man? Well, he sounds pretty dadgum good to me.
God gave rock and roll to you, gave rock and roll to you, put it in the soul of everyone. God gave rock and roll to you, gave rock and roll to you, put it in the soul of everyone.
Welcome to Season 2 of the Electric Jesus Podcast. I'm your host, Chris White, writer, director, and producer of the 2021 rock and roll comedy, Electric Jesus. Last season, we went behind the scenes to discover the music that inspired the world of Electric Jesus and the amazing work our team did to create an all-new soundtrack for the film. Well, this season, I've selected 9 key scenes from the film to talk about with fellow artists, authors, academics, pastors, old friends, and new. There will be spoilers, so if you've not yet seen the film, I encourage you to watch it. It's streaming all over the place. Just Google it. Or better, click the link to our streaming partners in the show notes. And if you have seen the film, well, I'm guessing that since you're listening to this, the film connected with you. I'm glad, and I hope these conversations add to your enjoyment and appreciation of Electric Jesus.
Episode 9, Christian Band Dreams.
Steve Hindalong is one of the founding and continuing members of a band called The Choir. He and Derry Doherty, Dan Michaels, and the late Tim Chandler, I think that's the original lineup at The Choir, which was originally called the Youth Choir. This is a band that formed in Southern California, yes?
That's right. Now, originally, we had a bass player named Mike Sowerbury in the band.
Okay.
It was me, a guy named Mike Sowerbury, and Derry started the band, and Dan joined us in 84, and then Tim Chandler became our bass player.
Yeah.
And then we've had several bass players.
Well, yeah, but they haven't had a bunch of drummers because you are the drummer and lyricist. Who's another drummer lyricist?
Well, Neil Peart is the most famous one.
Okay.
I guess Phil Collins, songwriter.
Yeah.
There's a few, but yeah.
I know The Choir because when I was growing up, Electric Jesus is about a Christian heavy metal band. When I was writing the movie, I kind of leaned into the metal thing, Steve, because it was maybe the most strange and curious angle on Christian music. Mm-hmm. It had a lot of look and was misunderstood a lot, or maybe understood. I don't know, but it seemed strange to a lot of people, Christian metal.
Well, it was strange, and of course, I had to hate it at the time. I had to hate Stryper because I was in modern rock, alternative rock, so they were our peers. Derry, our sound guy, used to set up sound for them when they were just starting out because they were in Pasadena and we lived right there in Cerritos,
Yeah.
He would set up their PA and they would just have like these massive cabinets, but there'd only be one speaker actually in there, But we thought they were the lamest thing that ever possibly could be, throwing Bibles and all that, We were so elitist with our cool, new wave, notion of who we were. And of course, we had to see them take off and sell a million records. Like we didn't, we had no commercial success, and they had all we're like, wait a minute,
Now, my friend Daniel Smith, who I collaborated on with music for Electric Jesus, both of us trying to affect this Christian metal music, he was the same way. Like his band was kind of they were on Tooth and Nail for a while, Danielson family, and they're very eclectic. Art, folk, alternative, whatever. And he didn't really like anything Christian, but certainly not the more popular genres of Christian music. He was chasing something else.
Right.
And but here's the thing, so I grew up in South Carolina, and for me and a couple of my friends, all the Christian music, the bands on Christian labels that were out of Southern California just captured my imagination and really became like an identifier for me. Bands like the Altar Boys, Daniel Amos, and bands that felt like they were coming from California. And it was kind of like, I liked surf culture and, skate culture and Vans and all that. So for us in South Carolina, you guys eventually you did tour here, but early on, I would just hear your music at Christian bookstores, and it was kind of like this siren's call out west that seemed to be a version of Christianity, or Christian music at least, that I liked.
Let me interrupt you for a minute and say I got the proof that I toured in South Carolina right here. Can you see this mug I'm drinking out of?
It says Heritage USA. Yeah.
right, which is right there in South Carolina, right? we actually played there. We actually played there. I think it was '87.
Uh-huh.
It was right at the time that Jim Baker was in big trouble, and
Yeah.
and they went down in the scandal, and Jerry Falwell took over
Yeah.
for just a little while. And when we were playing this gig there, which we played at some little beachfront thing with like maybe 20 people watching us or whatever. It was meager, pathetic. We thought, we're playing at Heritage Jose.
Oh my gosh, I wish I'd been at that show. Oh,
yeah, it was meager, but one great thing about it, we got a check from them for $400 we got for the gig.
Mm-hmm.
And it was insufficient funds. We got a check from
Wow.
Heritage Jose, insufficient funds, $400. We never got paid for that gig, But coincidentally, here I am with the mug.
Yeah, there it is.
Prove it. But anyway,
Man, yeah.
I don't know where. I guess this conversation isn't going to go anywhere.
No,
we
it's
don't
not
know where
going
it's
to go.
going.
No, well, let's take it up to Fort Mill, and that's Fort Mill, South Carolina. Well, I saw you guys play. I was a college kid at a college called Furman in Greenville, South Carolina, and this must have been 90. It was Wide-Eyed Wonder was the record, and you guys were opening for Russ Taff.
Oh, wow!
Right?
Yeah,
and it was, you're playing the arena downtown, and me and my cool college radio friends, we were playing your music all week leading up to that show, telling everybody to go. And we went, and we saw you play your set, and as soon as you're done, I vividly remember going out, and you guys were at the merch table, and I came up. And I was just like, you guys are the best. You're so great. And this is so great. We saw you. And you were like, are you guys leaving? And we're like, oh, yeah, we're definitely leaving. And it may have been you. It may have been Darius. Probably you said, no, you should go listen to Russ Taff. He's really good. And we were like, no.
Yeah.
No,
well,
and he is really good. I don't want to slam Russ Taff. And that was a good
Russ
record that was out at that time. But
that The Way Home record is a great record, and they were great to us. But it was a horrible experience for us because night after night, we'd never played for crowds like that, a couple thousand people every night, and they pretty much overwhelmingly hated us. We did not belong on the tour. It was a situation where the label we were on, Word Records, and they were going to drop us. We couldn't succeed. We weren't going to succeed, and they said, well, if you go on this Russ Taff tour, we'll do one more record with you, but you got to use half your record budget because they're not going to pay you to do that tour.
Uh-huh.
So we were just paying our way on that tour. We were following their bus with our van and trailer, and it was that was 1989. And,
okay, that's what it was.
It was 4 months, 50 cities. Yeah, it was a disaster for us. And then we went back and we did this album called Circle Slide right after we got back.
Which is arguably your best record. I mean,
some people think so. Yeah. But we were just like, let's make it, like you said, let's just make a record we want to hear. We know we cannot succeed in this industry. We wouldn't want to succeed in the industry. I mean, how can you succeed in an industry that you can't stand yourself? How can you care about getting radio success on a radio station that you yourself would not listen to because you can't stand it for 5 minutes? So we had no chance of succeeding commercially. Plus, we didn't want to say what we were expected to say, at least at that point.
Well,
I think I'm jumping ahead. I think I'm jumping ahead. Yeah.
I got to say my Groucho joke. I wouldn't want to be a part of a club that would have me as a member. I think it's the Groucho Marx joke.
Okay.
That was co-opted by Woody Allen, but yeah, that idea, you don't want to be in that club. So the scene in the movie that, and again, we'll talk about whatever we want to, but the thing about that scene so I wrote the movie as a fan. I don't know anything about Christian music industry. I let some people in the industry read it, and the ones that weren't offended or couldn't figure out what the movie is about, generally said, this is a plausible scenario. Some shady guy is like going to take a band around and try to make some money.
Sure, absolutely.
Do you remember what was the choirs, or at the time youth choir, what was the moment where, was there a moment where somebody came up and said, hey, I want to sign you to a record deal, or you played a showcase or a gig and somebody's like, you guys we're going to help you get to the top. Do you remember what that was? If there was a moment?
There were several moments like that. And I'll tell you what, the movie, like, I'll be honest with you. It was like, for me, cringe, like most of the way, because it was a little too real maybe. And that was that. for us, it was that narrow window of around 1986, the earliest days when we were in that, and like we got our own, we went our own way. But yes, the industry, well, it was just so exciting to get a record deal. We were just church kids, and and we wanted to just an idea of getting a record deal. Of course, back then, getting a record deal was a come by. You couldn't just make a record. Now you can just make a record on any laptop in any college dorm.
Sure.
But it wasn't that way. I mean, studios had $100,000 worth of equipment. You had to have a record deal. You couldn't just make an album, So you had to have a record label sign you, and it was like so. And so whether it was Christian or whatever, sure, that we were fine with that. And we did start out like, we were fans of Daniel Amos. They were our heroes.
Okay.
And Derry, our guy, our singer and my partner, was their roadie and sound man for Daniel Amos.
Okay.
And those guys are 10 years older than us. They're ahead of us. But we followed their path. We toured with them. They're our mentors, our heroes. Mm-hmm. And they were Christian Christian band, but they were kind of edgy, And so
they were artists. I mean, Terry Taylor's they're an artist. I mean,
Terry's the greatest songwriter that I personally know, of all someone that I would call a friend. Yeah. I got to say he's the best songwriter personally.
Yeah.
But anyway, we started out like that, but then very quickly you feel the expectation of what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to either evangelizing or edifying the body. One of these two. Your music is a tool. You're performing a function.
Yeah.
You have an agenda. Like, what are you doing here? And it's all about, you'd play your songs and they'd say, that whoever hired you go, where's the salt, bros? What about Jesus? And all that immediately just start feeling so boxed in. And of course, I became the lyricist, and I'm very introspective, and I want to write about real life, and I'm very self-aware and realizing that I can't really preach to anybody because my own life is picked up enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I've got enough trouble. I got real problems going on. We all do. And I just think I just want to be who I am, and if my faith works its way into the song, which it did into a lot of songs, okay. But if I want to write a love song or some problem I'm having with my wife, or if my dog died, not that it did, but I just feel like you write what you feel, whatever you feel, whatever's important to you, write about that. That makes for the best song.
Yeah.
And so more and more, that's what we wanted to do, and that's what I did as a lyricist. And therefore, we couldn't be sold. I mean, you can't market that, because what's for sale is what Jesus did. So whatever Jesus did, and joy also. Joy is for sale in what Jesus did, and real life is not all joy, right? And you don't walk around thinking about Jesus and God all the time. You think about, and so more and more I morphed away, and we realized the record label could not. I remember we did this record that's right now, we have a Kickstarter out for this record that we did 35 years ago called Chase the Kangaroo in 1987, which was really where we changed, where we made the leap and said, we're just going to write, I did as a lyricist, I'm just going to write about whatever I feel. The Rifleman, whatever happened to the Rifleman, or whatever it was, Chase the Kangaroo is the stupidest title there ever was, but I was working construction and digging ditches, and I remember that Bugs Bunny cartoon where, Bugs Bunny's digging, trying to get away from Elmer Fudd, and he comes out the other, and he's a Chinese guy, a Chinese guy with a gun, and of course you couldn't do that now, but in the 60s you could right. It'd be racial, racial or something right now, but I got the globe, and I go, wait a minute, if he went straight through, it'd be Australia, not China, So that's in my mind, I'm like, I work bad science into my songs as an English major kind of guy,
Yeah, of course.
Because songwriters don't have to be accurate about any of that.
That's right.
You can just whatever, your imagination. So I'm like, this is so futile. I feel like I'm digging, all the way to Australia, Chase the Kangaroo. Stupid idea, but my mind, I just like, my mind was just, my 27-year-old mind was just going crazy. Like, and the Christians are like, what about Jesus, bro? Like, and then I remember the record label at the end, the A&R guy, who was one of those guys that came to Knott's Berry Farm and saw us and said, I'm going to sign you guys. I'm going to make you guys on Word Records. You're going to be, he was a believer in us. We thought, but we knew we did want to succeed. We did want to please our record company people, But I remember him coming to me and said, I need a Christian song, and I need a Christian song now. So I wrote the song called Consider. That has Consider the Ghost of the Risen Savior. It's one of the lines. I go, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Consider this, consider that. But obviously it wasn't like they can't play that on Christian radio. It was a rock song. But I did say, Consider the Ghost of, there you go, okay? And then I wrote this other one called Children of Time, and it had references to, I don't know. It was Christian enough that they go, all right, you know. But that was pretty much it. And then after that, we just quit trying it all. And by the time we did, Wide Eyed Wonder record, and by the time we got to Circle Slide, we were just like, we can't. We're in the wrong place. We have no chance of success at all. So let's just make a record that we want to hear and let it go, and we'll be done. And then the record label did drop us after that. They're like, you're going to open the album with a 6-minute slow song? Oh,
yeah, yeah, that's right.
They're like, you don't start the record with that. You know, like, what? You know, like, yeah, you do, man. Have you heard Starfish? Haven't you heard the Church? You know, Starfish? Haven't you heard that out? Destination Unknown? You know, we're like, what? You guys don't know. Or haven't you heard Disintegration by The Cure? You know, it's
right.
The end of the 80s got real moody and cool. Right. You know, we're part of that whole, like, the end of the goofy 80s, quirky, you know. And then it got moody and cool, the great records. Nobody knew what was coming. Nobody knew Seattle was going to happen. Nobody knew Nirvana was around the corner. Yeah. It was almost like the music was getting quiet. It was about to explode again in a totally different way. And nobody knew. Yeah, nobody knew. And it was like grunge, you know, kind of ambient, maybe dream pop or something. That is exactly where you guys were.
She touches grief with her kiss. She saves me so. She saves me so. She brushes true love with thistle. Her garden grows. Her garden grows. It was mostly the promoters when we go to play gigs. Promoters at show, when you get to the venue and they're like, they are expecting a thing, or the fans, they come to your product table and you're like, sad face is good for the heart. What is that? You know, sad face is good for the heart. You're supposed to rejoice in the Lord always. I said, sorrow is better than laughter because a sad face is good for the heart. Ecclesiastes 7:3. That's also in the Bible. I didn't make that up. Well, you must have taken it out of context. You know, well, no, the context was it was a funeral. In Ecclesiastes, it was a funeral. And it's like, basically, that's part of life. So I didn't write it, you know, but I wrote it in the song because my wife had miscarried and it was death. It was the loss. It was like, well, the Bible says sorrow is better than laughter. You know, sad face is good for that. Somehow there's goodness in our suffering. And I've come to really believe that's true. It's very Buddhist also. You lean into the suffering there, you know, that there's a gift. Suffering is a gift in a lot of ways. It teaches us it gives us empathy for others. It makes us a better friend, a better human being. You know, so many things, you know. So I think it was more than they could handle. But then a lot of people, I probably got more mail. Because back then people wrote letters. Yeah, right. About that song, what it meant to them. Oh, wow. Really? Oh, my child died in a swimming pool or whatever it was. Like the overwhelming suffering people had, or the rifleman. I got a job for the rifleman, you know, about and people, what's that about? Well, a guy wrote me a letter, said, my father was brutally murdered as a taxi. He was driving a taxi trying to get me through college. He got stabbed and killed. I know. I want a job for the Rifleman. I want to kill that. I know what it's like to want revenge. I get it. I get that song.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And that song about being how we pray for peace and revel in war, where I'm talking about my own dichotomy, how I call myself a pacifist, which I was at the time. But then in my heart, we all enjoy, the bad guy getting his due and getting riveted,
Sure.
The Rifleman, a half an hour, there's a premise, and that the last, a bunch of guys get killed at the very end. It's very gratifying. So anyway, I'm rambling, but I'm writing about real things, and some people got it. They really got it.
Yeah.
But the majority did not. It's not what they came to church for. That's not what they went to the Christian bookstore to get.
I got that with, obviously, with Electric Jesus, I got that too. And I went into it without an agenda, really. I just wanted to write about my youth group friends. I wasn't in a band. I like Christian music. I had some wistful thoughts about that. I've deconstructed and reconstructed a faith in my life. And I think we should be deconstructing and reconstructing all the time, probably. Yeah. But in the film, as I'm making the film, like I went in a thing where I thought I was the main guy as I'm writing. I wrote me as the sound guy. And then I started watching the film when it was over, and I realized, no, I'm the girl. I'm the girl that's trying to figure out what to do with her art and get out.
Wow. Yeah, right.
Isn't that cool? Like when a piece of art starts working on you, when you've let it go and it comes right back in your face.
I get that. Chris, I totally get that. I so get that. I totally get that. Yeah.
But that's not how the commodified kind of Christian art, Christian music world was set up. It was really set up to just deliver propaganda is the mean way to say it, but it was just delivering comfort it was repeating back aphorisms and feel good to Christians who were maybe a little insecure or new in their faith and were wanted to, and it's still that, if you listen to like a K-Love or His Radio or any of these, it's just a wall of, it's like sweet, don't worry, it's whistling past the graveyard. It's just don't worry.
That's the elixir. That's the elixir that people are there to buy. That's where the money is, man.
Yeah.
That's where the money is. That's why they're there.
But it doesn't also, like artists, everybody's going to think the choir songs are super sad. They're not. I mean, oh no. Even a cloud or the song Clouds on that record on Chase the Kangaroo, I was listening to it the other day, and it just did a number on me, man.
Wow.
Your playing is great in that too. It's very.
I was doing Mick Fleetwood's Tusk.
Oh yeah, Tusk. Of course. Oh yeah, that's the greatest drumming ever.
Yeah,
it's just, and it's a little bit of, is it brushes on the snare or something, or do you play it? Is that how you would play? It's a little soft.
Want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you talking about the original recording, right?
Yeah,
Are you talking about the original recording? Okay.
I listened to both. I listened to the re-record too, but on the original.
This is what I did. Okay, I'll tell you exactly what I did for drummers out there. I did one. If the song is 6 minutes long, I did a pass with brushes.
Yeah.
It's just with the 3 times. Just like a pattern.
Yeah.
And I did it for the whole 6 minutes. Then on 2 tracks. Then I did another pass with mallets. Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. And then I did another pass with sticks. Doing the same thing. So I had 6 tracks, 2, each one was stereo. Then I overdubbed the cymbal crashes, right?
Yeah.
Because the 80s, everything was overdubbed, So I had like 8 tracks of drums. Mark Hurd mixed it. Remember Mark Hurd?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he mixed it for us. So what he would do was slide up on the first verse. It starts out with just brushes, the 2 faders, because everything was manual, right? We didn't have automation. You pushed up faders, So he pushed the brushes. Second verse, he pushes up the mallets with the brushes.
Right.
So it gets that group.
Yeah.
So I'm going for the Tusk group thing, right? And then the last verse, he pushes up the sticks too. So you got brushes, mallets, and sticks all playing together, like a gang, right?
It grows. Yeah, there's something intensifies. It's like relentless. It's relentless, and to me, again, the way it got me is I was listening to the song and I said, is this about death? A friend's father recently passed away, and I'm like, is this a song about death? And maybe I've read it that way. The lyrics of colors and temperature, the blood is warm,
which means it's still alive. It's still
current. And then the eyes
still happening. It's still ongoing.
Yeah, the eyes are hidden. The eyes are hidden. That idea, God's eyes
shadows
being
veil your eyes. The mystery of God.
Yeah, and that's yeah.
Give me a minute. I'm going into my room. I'm going into my room to get the book that inspired it.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. This is where I got this. I got the earbuds in, so I got this. My who was going to be my wife, Nancy. This is not 11/29/1980. My 20th birthday. She gives me this book. People can't see it, but she says, "Steve, I pray that this will help as you grow strong in the love of Jesus Christ, always searching for Him through His Word. With His love, Nancy." Okay, we got married 2 years later.
Okay,
Christian college, right? She gives me Oswald Chambers, "My Utmost for His Highest."
Oh yeah, of course.
The devotional was written, I think, in the 30s or something.
Yeah, right.
I read it, and then I get to January 3rd, and the passage and the title of the devotional is "Clouds and Darkness," and it has the verse from Psalms. It's in Roman numerals. I think it's 97 too. "Clouds and darkness are round about Him." And then it goes on to talk about the mystery of God. But then it has this line down in it that says, "After the amazing delight and liberty of realizing what Jesus Christ does, comes the impenetrable darkness of realizing who He is." But roll the tape all the way forward. I'm divorced from Nancy. I have been for 7 years. We were married for 34 years. We got married in 82. We lasted 34 years. We both, I guess the thing is deconstructed, but we both don't believe what we used to believe in the same way. I don't know if I want to get into that, but quite the faith journey, both of us. But that's where we started out, man. Here she was 18 and I was 20. And that's how we started out. And we believed. And when I wrote Clouds, I believe that with all my soul.
You guys contributed a re-record of your song "Render Love" to the soundtrack, and all those needle drops. I remember sitting down with John Thompson, our music supervisor, and I was just saying, like, okay, well, the songs you're going to play in the world, the needle drops, this is my music. If we're making all this heavy metal. So I just started making lists of bands and songs, and what can we get? And it had to be playing in the world at the summer of 1986. So for you guys, the song was "Render Love" off the record Diamonds and Rain. One, I love the song. It was one of my favorites from the record, but also that song always felt slyly subversive in the context of Christian music. It was a peacenik song.
A little John Lennon.
Yeah. On a Christian record label.
Give peace a chance. Yeah, it was a little lefty. Lay down your weapons, lift up. It was kind of my pacifist thing.
Yeah. But
lay down your weapons and lift up your fear. That song's relevant right now, I think.
Absolutely. But the song was definitely playing in my car, playing on my jam box back in the day. So I really am glad that you guys were able to do it.
We tried to do it just like the original, copy it. But we had to lower it a step because Derry couldn't hit the high note anymore.
Ah, right. Yeah.
He couldn't hit the F. It was a high F. He doesn't have an F in his range anymore, so we had to lower it to an E. But other than that, it's the same.
Yeah.
Render love, let there be peace in the land. Reconcile woman and man. Lay down your weapons and lift up your fear. Render love, hold out your hand, be the one. Reconcile father and son. Love is the reason you're here.
Okay, so here you go. 63-year-old Steve goes back in time to 15-year-old Steve, and after you get past the strange science fiction of the scenario, 15-year-old Steve believes it. Okay, here's old man me. What's that conversation like? What do you talk to that young man about?
I just would be, when in doubt, be kind to people. Be kind. I've learned to be kind in my old age. I have a very, very kind, loving father who's my biggest influence. That's what's worked best for me. And so I want to tell the young guy, because that's in me. I want to say, be true to that, set your ego aside and just be as kind as you can to people. That's it, because that's what's working for me now. That's who I am. But I wasn't always. I can be a really mean son of a bitch at times. I can hurt people. I've hurt a lot of people. I don't, as a general rule, but that's when I roll back the tape and I want to do things to relive my life, like we all probably do in certain areas. I think, I should have been nicer to that person. I shouldn't have been mean. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have hurt that person.
Are you still friends with people from the scene, or the people that you were friends with back in the day? Like the people from...
What day is that?
I mean, when youth choir began and the choir was kind of on its rise right up into the 90s, and of course you guys made awesome music. I have stayed together for like 30-something years, so it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, are you still buddies with people that maybe have changed in their perspectives on Christianity and even religion? Is everybody still friends?
Well, we're still fond of each other. A lot of us in that scene, Ojo Taylor, I would consider a good friend, even though he's become atheist now, and he was, I shouldn't have said even though, I didn't even say even though, because I agree with him in a lot of ways. But, and Mike Stan or whatever, I'd say he's a friend. But here's the thing, we moved to Nashville in 93 in our early 30s. Yeah. So I've established a whole new circle of friends in my adult life. So I'm not buddies with people from my youth, but I'm on good terms with everybody. Like I said, all the record label people and our former manager and all the different people. I don't blame anybody for our what I consider failed commercial success. I don't blame anybody. I think everybody. I don't have any ill will. I'm not bitter at anybody.
Yeah.
But I invest deeply in my friendships. I have all my life. Even post-divorce, I've been divorced 6 or 7 years. And that's a big social shift when that happens.
Yeah, of course.
That creates a big social shift. And I've gotten some of the deepest friendships that I have going. In fact, I would say right now, the best thing I have going on in my life is my relationship with other guys.
Yeah.
We walk in the woods together. And I have a girlfriend who lives in Cincinnati, which is 4 hours away, long distance relationship. And so... I don't know, I'm trying to be patient about that. but that's a good thing to look forward to every other weekend. But in the meantime, I'm loving walking in the woods, literally and figuratively. With a bunch of good guy friends that I'm there for you. You want to move? Like, Matt Slocum was moving this weekend. I'm like, I'm the guy that's going to help you move. I'm there for you, man.
Yeah, right.
So that's very enriching. That's very enriching in my life. Yeah. I want to be a good friend. I just want to be a good friend. I think that's one of the greatest attributes. I wrote a song on one of our albums a few albums back called "A Friend So Kind." Mm-hmm. About a friend named Tom Howard who had passed away. And he was such a good friend to me. And I thought that is the highest aspiration of virtue, to be a really good friend. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And in fact, I used to say that to my daughter when I dropped her off at school, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, whatever. So I go, Erin, be a friend to someone who needs a friend today. Mm-hmm. And she's done that her whole life. She's 33 and she does that. Mm-hmm. I think that's really important in life. That's enriched my life, and that's what I would tell. That's what I tell anybody out there. Say, be a friend, not just be a friend to someone who needs a friend. Yeah. Today you can make a difference. Right now, right today, you can be a friend to somebody who needs a friend.
Man, I'm pleased that you talked to me, and I'm pleased that you guys were able to be involved in the movie in the way you were with that contribution. I'm sorry that it was so cringy to watch. It was cringy for me to watch too. But
today, I love the scene. Just now I watched the clip, and I love the scene where the guy's eating the licorice, and he's talking about how he got baptized when he was like in 2nd grade. Yeah. Then he did a rededication. They did another rededication, and it was so dead on. Yeah. That's why it was cringy, because it was so dead on. I'm thinking, I was baptized when I was 6, and then I see myself at summer camp. Yeah. All the cringy. That's why it was cringy, because you kind of hit it.
Yeah. He says he really. Yeah. He hit rock bottom. He hit rock bottom in middle school or something.
Middle school. Yeah. That was hilarious, dude. Yeah. That was really funny.
Yeah. I remember those. Yeah.
And the sound man guy, the protagonist, the sound man dude, is like he's already an old soul. He's looking at the guy like, what? Middle school, really?
This is my friend Brendan Gallagher, and it's fair to say that we would not even be friends. We wouldn't even know each other if there wasn't an Electric Jesus.
That is correct.
I guess there was something, it must have been something about the film that caught your eye or compelled you in some way to like check it out. What was that?
I'm part of a podcast group called Decent Christian Talk, and Gabe Jones was the guy who had the movie, and he sent it to me for us to be able to talk about it. And I automatically was just hooked from the very beginning of it. The opening scene to everything that happened along the way to those guys. As a musician, it just grabbed me. And even though, we know how it turns out, it's still like they tried. Just the way that they put the effort in and everything like that, it just resonated with me in a lot of ways.
Well, okay, so I know you're in West Virginia now. Did you grow up in that part of the country?
So I grew up here, but I've lived all over the country.
What was your church? Were you a church youth group kid? Did you listen to Christian rock music when you were little?
I was the ultimate church youth group kid.
Okay. Hey, I might be that guy. Let's hear your stories.
Hold up. So the Nazarene Church had youth group on Thursday night. Yeah. The Assemblies of God Church had it on Wednesday night. The Baptist Church had it on Sunday night. And the Church of God had it on Friday night. And these are all very, very different experiences across the board. And then I also was at a Methodist church from time to time. So I have a very screwed up theology. But I literally jumped across the board. And I mean, almost every night I was at a different youth group. My earliest Christian music memory, though, doesn't start with youth group. It starts with seeing an Amy Grant cassette on the coffee table in our house in Texas when I was like 4 or 5.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And just automatically, it just grabbed me. I'm still a huge Amy Grant fan. But yeah, so that's my earliest. But now, then you fast forward to middle school. I moved to West Virginia. My parents had just divorced, and a youth pastor hands me this rap group because I had just come here, and we were listening to rap. Now I'm 9 years old. He hands me a rap group called DC Talk.
Yeah.
And I use the term rap so loosely there. But, they had that. Everyone always wants, you remember those charts we had when we were kids that said, if you like such and such, you'll love, and they literally said, one of them was, if you like NWA, you'll love DC Talk.
Well, I mean, to be fair, those guys would probably laugh at that comparison as well. At least now they would.
100%. But the reality is, and what I try to tell people all the time is actually DC Talk was a hybrid of a group called Joe Public and New Kids on the Block.
Yeah.
That's really what they were.
Yeah. And that record, that it's in particular, the Jesus Freak record is it's just such a well-made, terrific Christian rock record. Even if it's as rappy, when people say Hamilton is like rap Broadway, it's like, no, there's rapping in it, but it's a pop musical. Right.
Oh,
and I think the same when I think of DC Talk. I think there may have been some gimmicky rapping early, but pretty much they just became, and they and the people that were making music with them were just brilliant at making great records.
Oh, yeah.
Records sound amazing.
The Free at Last album began to change everything. And that's where they really started to show what they could do. But then Jesus Freak just catapulted them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was that kid that grew up on, your standards, for the 90s, Audio Adrenaline, Newsboys, DC Talk. But I also listened I wasn't the kid who was only allowed to listen to Christian music. At the same time, I'm listening to Nirvana, Pearl Jam, all of that right at the same time.
Okay, so when people would tell you, when people say, oh man, Christian music sucks, you were at least coming from it from an educated point of view. You were already a tastemaker. You were like experiencing everything, and you're like, well, maybe that Christian record sucks, but there's a bunch of not Christian music that sucks too.
I was always that guy that was like, yeah, okay, but what are you listening to? Like, because I got to show you the good stuff, and the good stuff exists. And
right.
I was always trying to get people to listen to it, not to share the gospel with them. I just wanted them to hear how good the music actually was, because I think there was just a misconception as to what the quality was going to be because it was Christian.
That's still there, and I think it's an unfair whipping boy for sure. I mean, there's lots of motivations that people have for making music, and sometimes it's religious in nature, or if you've had a profound experience with God, and I've heard a lot of, especially the early Jesus movement, Jesus music guys, they'll just say, like, I had a profound experience with God and I wanted to make music about it. It was freaking me out, and I needed to sing and play about it.
Yeah, Larry Norman could have been huge if he'd gone just the secular route. He would have made it no matter what.
But you also, in this place, being a musician yourself comes in. When did you start playing music, and what did you do? What did you play, sing? What was your participation as a musician growing up?
5 years old. My dad was a preacher, and I am one of 4 siblings, so you could probably tell where the story's going. We used to sing when my dad would travel around, and all 4 of us would get dragged up front, and we had little vocal arrangements. My mom was really good with harmonies and things like that, and she made us into a little choir. I was the Michael Jackson of the group that went solo.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did a lot of that. That was where I got the start, and then at age 12, picked up guitar. Alternative music, grunge music grabbed me hard, and guitar really was born out of that.
Okay. And what year is this for you? This is getting early 90s, I guess, probably?
Yes, that would be 91.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, and that was what started my musical journey. And I had a really cool high school experience where the 90s were fun. I always tell people, like, I know everybody argues over what was the best decade, but in the 90s, you had 20 to 30 guys going to school every day with guitars strapped to their back. And in between class, at the beginning of the day, time, we're all sitting around teaching each other how to play the guitar. And
amazing.
That's how I learned. Yeah.
And all this while you're also going to various church youth groups. Does this start to come? Do you start playing in Christian bands or worship bands, or how does that start developing?
Yeah, I started in worship bands in the end of high school.
Okay.
So yeah, my senior year in 97.
Man, that's a great time to be in a worship band. There's super cool music coming out. And
well, that was when it was allowed to still be like driving guitars, even though you watch these worship bands now and there's like 6 guitars on stage and I can't hear a single one of them. I'm like, why are they there?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so 97 was when I really started that, went to Christian University, and my university was Evangel University in Springfield, Missouri. We, 4Him came from there.
Okay.
And Springfield is like the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
Every Christian band under the sun came through there. I mean, just constantly. You could go see anybody and everybody. In college, started jamming out with guys and really started to get the band experience there. Auditioned for a few battle of bands and went nowhere with it. Moved to Toledo, Ohio, hooked up with some guys there, got into a worship band that started playing outside of the church. And after that, moved back to West Virginia, met this guy named Tim Shrout. We started this band called Last Year's Model. I've been doing that for forever, and we play all up and down the East Coast.
When you actually start playing, when you actually start having the experience of, rehearsing, and then you put a set list together and you talk about what we're going to wear when we play, what's going through your mind? I mean, like, people who don't know this, like in Christian circles, there is a sense that especially if you're a worship band, that you are worshiping, so you are, you are a leader, almost like a pastor. Sometimes they would call the lead singer the worship pastor, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're leading a congregation. How much of that is like, we're doing something ministry-wise, and then also something that's like artistic in nature? Like, we want to be good.
Okay, so back around that time that I met Tim, there was a major movement to try and rein worship artists in. All across the board, you had everybody wanting to be Bono. And
sure,
they started releasing these books called like The Heart of the Artist, and Matt Redman had the song Coming Back to the Heart of Worship, that song.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, wait, like everyone's getting all these big things, so now we're going to strip it back down. And it felt weird as an artist because it kind of felt like they were really trying to control.
Yeah.
And that didn't sit well with me. And a lot of those guys from that era, very few of them that I personally know, and I'm not going to say this as a general statement, but just the ones I know, very few of them are still doing it because of what happened at that time frame and how it became very controlled. And we started getting told you can only, there was a time where, 3, 4, 5 songs, whatever. Now it's like 1 song, 2 songs, this guy's going to speak. And it just got very controlled, it lost the artistry very quickly.
Is part of that art, for lack of a better term, like connecting to the spirit, feeling the moment and going with it?
Right. And it just felt like that, the way certain things began to get structured, it took that out of it completely.
I gotcha.
But going back to your question, preparing and all that, and how do you, I did that for a while and then transitioned to just playing regular shows, not leading worship. And my band's very first show ever outside of the church was opening up for Bleach.
Okay.
And we were specifically told, do not tell them this is your first show.
Good advice.
if I had to do it all over again, I would not have played that show because that band was, at that point in time, we had no identity. The one guy that played in the band could only play a certain tuning that caused our songs to all sound the exact same.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
It was just not our best presentation. But I learned a lot from it, and I learned a lot from those guys. That was our first, and that taught me a lot. And now I'm very, when we go to do shows, we're very prepared, very organized. It's a different beast. The my going back to Electric Jesus and the party atmosphere and all that. It's so rare to see that anymore in the music industry. Most of the guys are treating it like a business.
Yeah.
They're organized. They're prepared. They're not walking in like they own the joint anymore.
Yeah.
It's a totally different vibe than it used to be.
When you guys were playing, some shows are probably awesome. Some are not. When you're thinking about, and this is maybe still in Ohio before you've moved to West Virginia, or maybe it's during the move to West Virginia. When you think about it ambitiously, are you thinking on any level like, I want to do this. I want this band to quote unquote make it. And what would that even mean for your band to make it? What would that look like in that Christian music realm? What does that even mean?
I felt like that had kind of been beaten out of me at that point in time. And beaten out of me, I mean, like going back to the whole controlling thing. That's not what you should desire. That's not what you should want. And to want that is vain and it's selfishness. And so I don't know that I had that mindset at that point in time. Okay. But I mean, I guess secretly in the back of my mind, I mean, I'm the kid that walked into the Catholic school for the first time when I was in the 3rd grade, and everyone else is in their uniforms, hadn't got mine yet, popped my collar and basically introduced myself like I was Elvis Presley to a bunch of Catholic kids. So it was this, I always wanted it. I always wanted music. I always wanted to be there. It just took me a while to remind myself that that's what I wanted. I love connecting with crowds. I love getting to entertain them and to have that opportunity to show what I'm good at.
So you relate to that scene where Sarah's telling Eric that she likes being up front and she likes singing, and he's like saying, no, you got to make Jesus famous, not yourself. And she's kind of like, well, yeah, I know, but that being that person that like, there's something in me that wants to step out and be that guy is something you relate to.
That scene reminded me of an experience I had in college with a professor who said, he was raised in a environment where he could sing, and he remembers after performance, people would start clapping. And when they would start clapping, he would always he's like, I'm trying to get on my tippy toes and pointing at heaven. Like, no, don't applaud for me. Applaud for Jesus, applaud for Jesus. And he said, and I realized, wait a minute, I got to stop doing that because it's Jesus, it's God who gave me the talent to be able to do what I'm doing. But I'm the one who had to put the practice in. I'm the one that had to put the effort in. And I'm the one that made this. And so there's nothing wrong with saying thank you. And there's nothing wrong with getting excited that people enjoyed what you did.
Yeah, there is an element of the ecstatic to almost any kind of performance that does go to a place of, if not worship, it goes to something transcendent. Whether you're at a U2 show and you're in a big room and everybody's singing the words of the song. Again, I'm not equating that with an act of worship, but there's something very human about a lot of times when you clap or you cry or you respond, there's something beyond you that's coming from, and to try to limit that or say, no, that's wrong, or that's the wrong way to feel is strange. But it was common. It was definitely common in evangelical circles and around musicians and artists for sure.
Oh yeah. It did a lot to make you feel like you couldn't do certain things or couldn't go certain directions with your music because then you weren't glorifying God, and you realize, wait, that's not how this works. That's not who God is. That man is. In
the scene where the band has a manager, the scene where Brian Baumgartner playing Skip Wick comes to the church fellowship hall, we actually cut a little bit of the scene where the youth minister introduces him as his friend from seminary or something. Did you ever have a moment like that where somebody from the industry heard your band play and wanted to have a conversation, or you picked up a business card from somebody, or maybe you did a showcase, or you were at Cornerstone, or there was any kind of conversation where you're like, hey, guys, this could be it?
I can't tell you how many times that actually happens.
Okay.
It invades you because you hear it so often that you begin to you don't take it seriously at all, because so many guys are like, oh man, you guys are amazing, and I have this opportunity, and I want to give you guys this chance, and then you follow up with it, and then it's like they ghost you. It's like, well,
yeah, what was that?
Happened?
Yeah.
And it's like, so in the moment they get, it's weird, they get hyped up, but I don't know if they come back to reground and come back to reality, and then they realize they don't have the resources to do what they said they were going to do. Mm-hmm. I have actually, when Brian stepped onto the screen and started into that, I was like, oh my gosh, I know 30 of this guy.
Good.
But one in particular, oh my gosh, it is like Gabe and I, going back to when we both watched it, he was like, tell me what you think after about 15 minutes in. I text me like, oh my gosh, it's such and such. And he's like, yeah. I mean, we were both just like, I could not believe how similar. I honestly wondered if, like, does this guy who made this movie know?
I think the first time we talked, maybe you asked me that, and I was like, no, I didn't know anybody like that. But that's so rewarding to hear that you kind of had a run in with a Skipwick. It was almost on the nose.
more than one.
Okay.
But one was spot on, and
he's good at like giving the boys just enough hope, right? He's good at like saying like, yeah, I'm friends with Petra. Yeah, I just saw them, or, oh, I like this kid. He sounds pretty good to me. I like this spiritual account about. I love it. Like it's sales is what it is, but he's
Which we artists all have to be careful, because we can all fall into that trap of, oh yeah, I know so and so, and and then you're like, well, I hope they don't really follow up on that, because I don't know. But you have to be careful with that, because it can bite you in the butt. I ran into that where it's like this guy was saying, oh yeah, these guys, it's a Delirious, if you remember Delirious. Like, he's like, these guys are with them, and and I'm going to be working with Delirious. Well, no, the connection there I ended up finding was so loose. There was nothing substantial there at all.
Yeah.
But he made it seem like because of that connection, he can make something happen there.
Right.
And there was nothing.
You said you came at your faith from a lot of different angles, and you had some, some family trauma, the divorce, and your dad was a pastor, and you're moving across the country, so but where are you now with your faith? And what journey was that? What's the journey between if we were hanging out when you were 13 or 14 and now? How has your faith evolved, and how do you think about it? How do you think about God and art and these things that are so important to us?
13, 14-year-old thought God needed me way more than I needed him.
Yeah.
I was the guy that was going to get people saved and go down the path. And now I'm much more of a live and let them see kind of person.
Okay.
And treat people the way I want to be treated. I've gone through deconstruction phases, and since that's the buzzword, and maybe if we put that in here and tag it. But I've never deconstructed to the point of disbelief. Mm-hmm. I find that a lot of deconstruction journeys are actually just people who don't want to look for answers. They just want to not have to worry about finding them. And so they just discount it all.
That's a great point.
But I've had a lot of things that I was raised in that I thought were biblical, but then you go back and you look and you're like, that's not in scripture at all.
Yeah.
A lot of what I experienced in the charismatic movement, and that's just my personal opinion. People can argue with me if they'd like, but a lot of what I saw that I grew up in just isn't justified with scripture. Mm-hmm. I've never walked away from my faith. I've never walked away from Christ and believing in the importance of his role in my life and the necessity of him in my life. But I have seriously 100%, like, what I believed at 13, 14 to what I believe now are very things. They still are in the same house.
Yeah.
I moved to a different room.
thing I can't step away from when it comes to Christianity is Jesus. You can't find a better deal than the grace part of it. And intellectually, or however you want to look at it, that is just such a strange and unique offer in a religion. And I just don't think we think about it or talk about it enough. It turns into so many rules. Like, worship leaders can't close your eyes and look up at the ceiling too much because, whatever the rule would be, or you can't dress this way, or you can't play your instruments.
There was a rule. I'm not kidding you. There was a rule at one place that I was at where the worship leader's arm could not go above a certain height. Like, it had to be like 90 degrees. It could not go any higher than 90 degrees above their, basically it had to be parallel to their shoulder. It couldn't go in.
Man, that's like a scene that should be in the movie. I wish I'd heard that. Some friends of mine in a band called Evan's Dilemma told me about a story when it was a previous band, another Christian band, but they were playing in a church, a Baptist church on a Sunday night, kind of like that scene in the movie. They're playing on the podium. And it was going fine. It was youth night, whatever. They were playing rock and roll. And some old guy, like some old World War II veteran, dude, just kind of came up on the podium and just physically put his hands on the cymbals of the drums and just started saying, "Stop, stop, stop." And so they stopped. He's like, no. And then the youth minister came up and kind of walked the old timer out, and they went on with the show. But it was like, it's just like, I've never seen anything anywhere where somebody just said this, stop it, stop this noise, this horror. So yeah, there's something about being thwarted by the Christian audience. There's so many ways you can not be open to it. Tell me about the band now, Last Year's Model, and what you guys do and how you approach your music and how you think about it.
Last Year's Model, it's a literal collection of everything that has inspired me in my growing up. Everyone tries to identify our sound and everyone says, "Oh, you sound like this, you sound like that." I'm like, "Oh, all of that," because those are the guys that influence me. You're going to hear a Billy Idol influence. You're going to hear Foo Fighters, U2, The Killers. You're going to hear that sound in our music. Bruce Springsteen, you're going to hear it in our music. I don't ever write songs that sound like any of them, but I write music that I want to write. And that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And so whatever I'm writing in that moment is what's going to come out. We put out our first album out in 2021. Our very first song we ever recorded was a cover of a Kevin Max song for a tribute project to his solo career. That taught me how to be in a studio. And so that made it a lot easier to go and then record our own album, the Neon Lights Collection. Everyone always has this mark of like what they want. I don't really know that I'm going after a certain goal, like trying to be huge or anything like that. But the experience that I've gotten to have, like, because of music that I know I would never have otherwise, have just been absolutely amazing. And I'm very, very blessed and grateful to have gotten to do what I've gotten to do so far.
Imagine that, a mature, seasoned perspective on it all. And also perspective that's still ambitious and hopeful for the music. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing to aspire for in, dare I say it, middle age, especially for those of us who, I know you're in a band. I can't say that you're middle aged. I really appreciate you talking to me, and I've loved your music. I love that an Electric Jesus poster is hanging in your studio. That's an honor for us. And I know I'm absolutely certain I will see you guys play at some point. We'll be able to hang out some more. So thank you so much, Brendan. And I love hearing your stories.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And thanks for having me. And, I look forward to your next project whenever you decide to do something.
Speak of the devil, he's no friend of mine. To turn from him is what we've got in mind. Just a liar and a thief, the world tells us so. We'd like to let him know where he can go. To hell with the devil. To hell
Electric Jesus is available wherever you stream movies. Check the links in the show notes to find the award-winning film, the soundtrack, a merch table filled with cool EJ stuff, and links to our guests and their work. If you enjoy the podcast, please be sure to rate and subscribe to it on your preferred player, and check out all the amazing extras we curate on the Electric Jesus YouTube page. Thanks for listening.
With the devil.
Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition.